These are 5 quarterbacks you can draft. They'll make you look like a fantasy genius while carrying you to the promised land this season. With all these guys being mid to late draft picks, they all have a real shot at outperforming their ADPs this season. Just to clarify, this is not for superflex drafts. Not a lot of quarterbacks are making it out of those first 6 to 8 rounds in those drafts, but all 5 of these guys are great quarterback 2 targets for superflex drafts. This is the last video in this series. Make sure you check out the ones I did on running backs, receivers, and tight ends. I'll have all those nicely presented to you in the description below. So let's jump right in with the first QB, and that's Jared Goff. So Jared Goff currently has an ADP near 105 in PPR drafts. That makes him the quarterback 13 and an 8th round pick. So Jared Goff isn't the most flashy fantasy quarterback option, but he is one of the more consistent ones. In 2022, he finishes the quarterback 10. In 2023, he finishes the quarterback 7. And last year, he was the quarterback 6 in all of fantasy. So there are obviously some questions revolving around this offense with the departure of Ben Johnson. But if I had to bet money on it, I don't think this offense is going to suffer a lot, if I'm being honest. It's hard not to believe that when you have guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown, J-Mo, Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, and an elite offensive line. If you need any more proof that this offense is most likely still going to be a juggernaut this season, Jared Goff is currently one of 3 quarterbacks with a passing yard total set at 3,900 or more yards by sportsbooks. The other 2 quarterbacks on that list are Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes. He's also one of 4 QBs with a passing touchdown total set at 28.5 or more. I give you guys these numbers because Vegas uses crazy advanced analytics when formulating these lines. And if Goff even falls a bit short of these projections, he's still going to outperform his ADP of quarterback 13 and most likely finish as a top 8 quarterback in fantasy. So in the 8th round, even as your quarterback 1 for 2 QB leagues, this is a prime target for you. Next, we have another quarterback with a similar ADP, and that's Brock Purdy. So Brock Purdy's currently going around the 9th round, typically a spot or 2 after Goff. And yeah, Purdy was a huge disappointment last year, but so were the Niners as a whole. They suffered countless humongous injuries, like guys like Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, Ricky Pearsall, their 1st round rookie getting shot in the chest, Brock Purdy himself, and the list just goes on and on. In all honesty, Brock Purdy stood no chance by midseason to win games with this Niners team, but playing in only 15 games, he still finishes the quarterback 13 in fantasy. The Niners are getting their guys back. This is still a Shanahan offense, and it's really easy for us to forget recency bias, but the Niners and Brock Purdy were in the Super Bowl only a year ago. And I think it's more fair to compare Brock Purdy and what his ceiling is to that year when they were in the Super Bowl and not last year when he barely had a roster to work with. So in that season where they did go to the Super Bowl, Brock Purdy was the quarterback 6 in all of fantasy, and that was only his 2nd year in the NFL. So the Niners this year are projected to win 11 to 12 games, and they have the easiest schedule in the NFL by a mile. So if I were you, I know I am. I'm going to have some faith in Brock Purdy during my drafts this year, and I'm definitely looking for him to finish well over his current ADP. So there's no question that these quarterbacks can bring you glory this fantasy season, but let me help you even more as your 12th man. My fantasy football draft guide is now available to the public. This guide will have all my rankings, notes, projections, and so much more. As a computer scientist, I've created advanced AI and machine learning models on top of my countless hours of research that could give you the winning edge this season. Secure your guide by emailing me, messaging me on X, or just commenting down below. The price you pay today is the price you pay for the rest of your life. So as this channel grows and I introduce new advanced AI models, you always pay what you pay today. And since this is my first summer of Yam Talks, I'm going to be giving out one guide every video for the rest of the summer. And all you have to do to enter is subscribe, like this video, and comment down below your favorite quarterback target for this year's drafts. And a week from today, I will choose a winner from your comments. All right, so with all that out the way, let's get back to the video, and we're going to go on to the 3rd quarterback on my list, and that's Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is currently being drafted right after Goff and Purdy. So the common theme here is that between rounds 8 and 10, it's low-key a gold mine for quarterbacks. But with Caleb Williams, you have a former number 1 overall pick from literally just last year who was labeled as a generational prospect entering the league. And that was for really good reason. We saw how great he was at USC. But obviously things didn't go as planned in his rookie year, but he was not in the most rookie-friendly situation in Chicago to succeed as a quarterback. Now he's one of the best offensive coaches we've seen in the last 5 years as his head coach in Ben Johnson. And you have an offense consisting of guys like DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Luther Burden, DeAndre Swift, Colston Loveland. And unless Ben Johnson is the biggest fraud we've seen in the NFL in the past decade, he will get these guys involved and right the ship on offense. We saw this in Detroit, and these guys he has on his offense are as capable as the weapons Jared Goff had in Detroit. Caleb Williams has all the talent in the world to be the captain of this ship under Ben Johnson and be a top 10 to 12 fantasy quarterback in his sophomore year. That is something I am willing to bet on in the middle stages of drafts when I'm drafting Caleb Williams. The next quarterback steal is Jordan Love. So people seem to have forgotten how high Jordan Love's ceiling is, considering that he's being drafted as a quarterback 18 in the 11th round of drafts as of right now. 2 seasons ago, Jordan Love was the quarterback 5 in all of fantasy, and that was his first year as a starter in the NFL. Last season, he was a quarterback 17, but he was battling multiple injuries throughout the year. He missed 2 games, and in the games he did play, it was so obvious he was barely even 60 to 70% of himself. This season, Green Bay is getting back a fully healthy Jordan Love. He's behind an elite offensive line with an elite running back, an emerging star tight end in Tucker Kraft, and a plethora of receiving options. Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, they're not consistent receivers, but they do take turns stepping up and being really elite receivers for like a week or two. But this gives Jordan Love a lot of options. And not to mention, Green Bay just drafted a receiver in the first round for the first time in 23 years. So that's no small matter for Jordan Love in this offense. If Jordan Love is healthy this season, which he should be, barring any like crazy injuries, I truly believe his floor is a top 12 fantasy quarterback, and he could definitely have another top 7 finish in his young career. If you need a second quarterback or even your first quarterback in drafts, this is a no-brainer at this stage of drafts. And then finally, we have a player who I think is worth taking a gamble on in the final rounds of redraft drafts or as your second or third quarterback in best ball drafts, and that's Bryce Young. So Bryce Young was shaping up to be a top 3 bust of all time midway through last season, but holy smokes, whatever Rod Wave told Bryce Young after he was benched over the phone has worked wonders. The former number 1 overall pick went on a tear in the second half of the season, improving literally every single week. Between weeks 12 and 18, Bryce was the quarterback 5 in all fantasy. But it gets even crazier. Between weeks 16 and 18, he was the quarterback 2. And in the final week of the regular season, he finished as the quarterback 1, putting up 5 touchdowns and 36.4 fantasy points. So now you have a rejuvenated quarterback with elite college pedigree under an offensive-minded head coach in Dave Canales. Not only that, but this offense boasts a statistically top 10 offensive line in the league, a Pro Bowl running back, and they just went out and got the number 1 pure wide receiver in this year's class with Tetairoa McMillan. And Bryce Young loves throwing the ball down the middle, and Tetairoa McMillan excels at those kinds of plays. So this Panthers defense is still going to be really bad this season, and that's going to force this offense to go out there and put up points if they want to compete. Bryce will be in the middle of all of that. So similar to the situation Joe Burrow and the Bengals offense was in last year and probably this year, Bryce is going to be in that kind of situation, and Bryce was the quarterback 2 in fantasy behind Burrow over the last 3 weeks of the season. So in best ball drafts where you do want to draft 3 quarterbacks, Bryce is a prime target as your 3rd quarterback in the last 6-ish rounds of your drafts. For redraft, you can snag him the last 2 rounds as your backup quarterback and beat the waiver wire madness in weeks 1 and 2 if he does end up going ballistic. And for Superflex, you might as well just snag him as your 3rd quarterback after you've gotten your 2 starting guys. And if you're taking a late quarterback strategy, he could be your 2nd guy. But those are 5 quarterbacks I'm personally going to be targeting this year, and I think you should too, considering where their ADPs are. And I'm going to be dropping a lot of fantasy videos over the next few weeks as we get prepped for drafts, so keep an eye out for those. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, enter the giveaway for my guide, and as always, thanks for tuning in.